As Opal Brightman stands humiliated outside an upscale cafe, denied service for her modest attire while others are treated differently, she must confront not just the shame, but a shocking secret lurking within that could change everything. What will she do next? Opal Brightman stood outside the upscale cafe, her heart racing with anticipation. At 28, she had dedicated herself to her job as a cashier, saving every spare dollar for this moment, a rare treat that promised a taste of elegance. She had heard whispers of the cafe's luxurious decor, the rich aromas of expertly brewed coffee, and the sophisticated clientele that frequented the place. Today, she was ready to step into that world, even if just for a fleeting moment. As she pushed open the door, the soft chime of the bell above greeted her. Instantly, her senses were enveloped by the warm, inviting atmosphere. Velvet chairs lined the walls, and the soft hum of conversation blended with the clinking of fine china. Opal took a deep breath, trying to quell the nerves that fluttered in her stomach. Though she wore her modest attire, a simple dress that hugged her curves in a way that felt both comfortable and vulnerable, she clutched her thrift store purse tightly, reminding herself that she belonged here just as much as anyone else. However, as she approached the counter, she felt the stares of the staff, their expressions shifting from indifference to disdain. She overheard them whispering about her appearance, the warmth of the cafe suddenly feeling icy. When she reached the front, her heart sank as a staff member, with a smug smile, informed her of the cafe's dress code, clearly not enforced for the patrons around her. The humiliation washed over her like a cold wave, leaving her feeling small and judged in a space that was supposed to be a celebration of her hard work. Opal stepped out of the cafe, her mind racing with disbelief. The soft chime of the door fading behind her felt like the closing of a chapter she had never wanted to end. Outside, the bustling street was a stark contrast to the stifling atmosphere she had just left. She could feel the weight of the stares from the patrons inside, some smirking, others avoiding her gaze entirely. Each expression cut deeper, amplifying her sense of isolation and shame. She moved away from the cafe, her heart heavy with hurt and humiliation, until she found a nearby bench. Sitting down, she allowed herself to breathe. The world around her continued its rhythm, blissfully unaware of the injustice she had just faced. Strangers laughed, talked, and sipped their drinks, while Opal felt as if she had been thrown into an entirely different universe. Tears threatened to spill from her eyes, but she wiped them away angrily, refusing to give in to the despair that loomed. In that moment of reflection, memories flooded her mind, the long hours spent at the cash register, the sacrifices she had made to save for this rare treat. Each dollar counted, each shift worked was a brick laid in the foundation of her dreams. She had envisioned this day as a milestone, a reward for her dedication and perseverance. Instead, it had become a reminder of the barriers she had to face. The cafe had represented more than just coffee, it had symbolized a taste of success, a moment where she could bask in the fruits of her labor. But now, it felt cruelly ironic. The cafe that was supposed to welcome her had instead turned her dreams to dust. A flashback struck her. She had imagined the elegance of sipping coffee in a plush chair, surrounded by laughter and camaraderie. She could almost feel the warmth of the sun on her skin and the joy spreading through her heart as she celebrated her small victory. Yet, here she was, heartbroken and alone, feeling as if she had been stripped of her dignity. Opal's thoughts spiraled, but just as quickly, she felt a flicker of resolve ignite within her. She straightened her posture, clenched her fists, and let out a shaky breath. This humiliation would not define her. She would not simply walk away, defeated. The unfairness of it all stirred a fire inside her, urging her to confront the truth of what had happened. Gathering her courage, Opal stood up from the bench. She looked back at the cafe, its polished exterior contrasting sharply with the bitterness that lingered in her throat. No, she wouldn't let this incident slide. She would speak out. Opal had always been a fighter, and today would be no different. As she prepared to leave the area, her eyes caught sight of a side entrance. A fire exit, padlocked and seemingly forgotten. The sight sent a chill down her spine. What kind of establishment kept its emergency exits secured? Her heart raced with concern. This cafe, with its pretense of elegance, could be hiding more than just discriminatory practices. The voices of the staff drifted through the air, casual and dismissive, discussing the cafe's operations. "Did you hear? We're still waiting on those safety certifications," one of them said, laughter punctuating the statement as if it were a joke. The weight of their words settled heavily on Opal's chest, and a surge of anger coursed through her. Not only had she faced humiliation, but now she was learning about the cafe's negligence regarding safety. In that moment, something shifted within her. Opal felt empowered. She was no longer just a victim of discrimination but an advocate for change. She decided that she would report these violations to health authorities, and she would not stop there. Opal pulled out her phone, the screen illuminating her determined expression as she began drafting an email to a local journalist. Her fingers moved swiftly across the keyboard as she detailed her experience, the cafe's discriminatory practices, and the alarming safety issues she had just overheard. With each word, she felt stronger, transforming her sorrow into a weapon against the injustice she had faced. She would expose the truth, shining a light on the discrimination lurking behind the cafe's polished doors. Opal was ready to challenge the status quo, and she would do it not just for herself but for everyone who had ever been made to feel less than they were. Today, she would reclaim her voice. As Opal finished drafting her email, a sense of clarity washed over her. The cafe, with its upscale facade and pretentious air, was built on a foundation of exclusion and negligence. She felt a pulse of determination from beneath her skin, a willingness to fight for change, not just for herself but for anyone who had been judged unfairly. After sending the email, she took a deep breath and tucked her phone back into her purse, feeling as if she had just taken the first step in a long journey of advocacy. With her heart still racing, Opal made her way home, her mind racing with thoughts of what would come next. The idea of her words reaching the journalist and sparking a conversation about discrimination and safety in establishments like the cafe excited her. She imagined the possibilities, how her story could resonate with others, how it might inspire people who had faced similar humiliations to come forward. When she arrived home, the small, cozy space felt like a refuge. The familiar scent of her favorite candle filled the air, grounding her in a moment of calm amidst the chaos of her emotions. She sat on her couch, her heart still pounding, and allowed herself to relax for a moment. But the thought of the cafe, of the way she had been treated, flared in her mind again. It wasn't just about her experience, it was about a systemic issue that needed to be addressed. The following days were a whirlwind. Opal's email had gone viral, garnering attention from local media and social media platforms alike. Outrage bubbled up, with many sharing their own experiences of discrimination in various spaces. It was as if a dam had burst open, and voices that had long been silenced found their strength. Opal felt a rush of empowerment. She was no longer alone in her fight. The support from her community poured in, with messages of solidarity and encouragement flooding her inbox. In the midst of this growing movement, the cafe found itself in an untenable position. They issued a statement in an attempt to quell the backlash, but their words felt hollow and insincere. They failed to address the core issues at hand, which only intensified public scrutiny. The unease surrounding the establishment grew. Some patrons began to boycott it, their refusal to support a place that had showcased such blatant discrimination echoing through social media. Then came the news that the health authorities had launched an investigation into the cafe. Reports revealed serious violations regarding food safety and sanitation practices. The cafe faced fines and a temporary shutdown, a consequence they hadn't anticipated. Opal couldn't help but feel a sense of vindication. The cafe's negligence had been laid bare for all to see, and she had played a role in bringing it to light. However, amidst the public outrage, there were mixed reactions. Some patrons called for harsher consequences for the employee who had humiliated Opal, demanding accountability for their actions. Opal found herself grappling with her own feelings about the situation. While she understood the anger of the public, she also felt a pang of empathy for the employee, recognizing that they too were a product of a system that perpetuated discrimination. As the cafe continued to face fallout from the investigation, Opal received overwhelming support from her community. Messages poured in from individuals who shared their own stories of injustice, each one underscoring the importance of standing up against discrimination. It was as if a ripple effect had begun, inspiring people to confront their own experiences and demand change. Through this tumultuous time, Opal learned the power of her voice. She began attending community meetings and speaking engagements, sharing her story and the lessons she had learned. Her journey was no longer just about a single incident, it had evolved into a movement for change, one that sought to dismantle the barriers that marginalized individuals faced in public spaces. As she spoke to groups of people, Opal felt an electric energy course through her. The connection with those who resonated with her story was profound, and she realized that by sharing her experience, she was helping others find their strength. The journey was not without its challenges, but each step forward felt like a victory, a reclaiming of her narrative. Weeks passed, and Opal found herself transformed by the experience. The cafe, once a symbol of her humiliation, now represented something entirely different, a catalyst for change and a reminder of the strength that lay within her. She walked with her head held high, empowered by the support she had received and the movement she had ignited. Then one day, she received a heartfelt message from a community leader. They expressed their gratitude for her courage, recognizing her as a catalyst for change in the fight against discrimination. The words filled Opal with warmth, reaffirming her belief that every voice mattered and that change was possible. The cafe eventually reached out to apologize, but Opal had moved on. She understood that personal growth was more important than dwelling on the past. The experience had shaped her into an advocate, ready to face whatever challenges came her way. As she walked past the cafe one afternoon, she noticed a sign in the window announcing new policies aimed at inclusivity and safety. A sense of pride welled within her. The fight was far from over, but she had made a difference. Opal smiled to herself, knowing that she had turned her pain into purpose. One sunny afternoon, she found herself in a cozy park, surrounded by friends. Laughter filled the air as they shared stories and enjoyed each other's company. Opal sipped her cup of tea, the warmth radiating through her fingers, and felt a profound sense of peace. In that moment, she realized that she didn't need the cafe or its status to validate her worth. She had discovered her own strength and resilience, and that was more than enough. Opal's email ignited a spark that quickly turned into a wildfire. The cafe's name began circulating across social media, and soon, public outrage erupted. People who had experienced similar discrimination flooded the internet with their stories, each testimony adding fuel to the fire. Opal felt a surge of empowerment as her words resonated with so many, transforming her individual humiliation into a collective cry for justice. The cafe, caught off guard by the rapid escalation, scrambled to contain the damage. They issued a statement, attempting to downplay the situation and reassure the public that they valued inclusivity and respect. However, their words rang hollow. They failed to address the core issues that had sparked the outrage, issues of systemic discrimination and unsafe practices. As a result, the backlash only intensified, with more and more patrons declaring their intention to boycott the establishment. Within days, health authorities began an investigation into the cafe, driven by the mounting evidence of safety violations and discriminatory practices. Reports emerged detailing unsanitary conditions and a lack of proper food safety certifications. The cafe's management, once so proud of their upscale image, now faced fines and the possibility of a temporary shutdown. Opal watched this unfold with a mixture of vindication and disbelief. It was surreal to see the consequences of her actions, a chain reaction set off by her courage to speak out. The employee who had humiliated her found themselves suspended, a decision that sparked mixed reactions from the public. Some called for harsher penalties, demanding accountability for the treatment Opal had endured. Others expressed empathy, arguing that the employee was merely a product of a toxic work environment. Opal found herself torn between these perspectives. While she understood the anger, she couldn't help but feel a twinge of compassion for the individual who had acted out of ignorance rather than malice. Amidst the chaos, Opal received an outpouring of support from her community. Messages flooded her inbox, people sharing their own stories of discrimination, expressing solidarity, and thanking her for speaking out. This wave of encouragement fueled her fire, propelling her to continue advocating for change. She began to attend community meetings, engaging with local leaders and activists, eager to shed light on the broader issues that plagued their society. As she spoke at these gatherings, Opal felt the weight of her story transform into a powerful narrative. It was no longer just about her experience at the cafe, it had evolved into a movement for justice and equity. She listened to others share their struggles, and in their eyes, she saw reflections of her own pain and resilience. The collective energy was palpable, a reminder that they were not alone in this fight. Weeks passed, and Opal found herself becoming a symbol of hope and change within her community. She was invited to speak at events and workshops, sharing her journey and empowering others to find their voices. The cafe, once a place of humiliation, now served as a backdrop for her advocacy. Opal's courage inspired others to confront their own experiences, igniting a movement that reached far beyond the confines of the cafe's walls. Then one day, as she walked through her neighborhood, she received a heartfelt message from a community leader. They expressed their gratitude for her bravery, acknowledging the ripple effect her actions had caused. The message filled her with warmth, reinforcing her belief that every voice mattered in the fight against discrimination. It was a reminder that change was possible, and that together, they could create a more inclusive society. Eventually, the cafe reached out to Opal, seeking to apologize for their actions. But she had already moved on. The experience had transformed her into an advocate, and she realized that dwelling on the past wouldn't serve her growth. Instead, she was focused on the future and the change she was helping to create. As she passed the cafe one afternoon, she noticed a new sign in the window announcing updated policies aimed at inclusivity and safety. A sense of pride welled up within her, a testament to the impact of her actions. She had turned her pain into purpose, and that was more powerful than any status she could have gained from patronizing a cafe. One sunny afternoon, Opal found herself sitting in a park with friends, laughter echoing around them as they shared stories and enjoyed each other's company. She sipped her cup of tea, the warmth radiating through her fingers, and felt a profound sense of peace. In that moment, it hit her, she didn't need the cafe or its validation to affirm her worth. She had discovered her own strength and resilience, and that realization brought her a deep sense of fulfillment. The journey had not been easy, but every step had led her to this moment of quiet joy. Opal smiled, knowing she had not only reclaimed her dignity but had also sparked a movement for others to do the same. In her heart, she understood that true elegance came from within, and it was a strength she would carry with her always. Weeks later, Opal Brightman walked through her neighborhood, the sun warming her skin, a stark contrast to the cold reality she had faced. She felt different now, taller, more confident, emboldened by the bravery she had summoned in the aftermath of her experience. The memories of humiliation still lingered, but they no longer defined her. Instead, they had transformed into a source of strength, a reminder of the fight she had embraced. As she sipped her tea on a park bench, she received a message from a community leader expressing gratitude for her courage. The words warmed her heart, validating the path she had taken. Opal smiled, realizing that she had become a catalyst for change, inspiring others to speak out against injustice. The impact of her actions rippled through the community, igniting conversations about discrimination and safety in public spaces. Opal had grown into a symbol of resilience, her story resonating with so many who had faced similar struggles. She began attending events, sharing her experience, and encouraging others to find their voice. Each time she spoke, she felt the weight of her past lift a little more, replaced by a sense of purpose. The café, once a place of pain, had become a powerful backdrop for her advocacy, turning her humiliation into a force for good. One afternoon, as she passed by the café, she noticed a sign in the window announcing new policies aimed at inclusivity and safety. A swell of pride filled her chest. The changes were a testament to the movement she had ignited, a promise that the community would no longer tolerate discrimination. It was a sign of progress, and Opal felt a deep sense of fulfillment wash over her. Later that week, she gathered with friends at a local café, the atmosphere filled with laughter and camaraderie. They shared stories and dreams, the warmth of their connections bringing her joy. Opal felt grateful for the support she had received, knowing it had played a crucial role in her transformation. She was no longer just a cashier saving for a cup of coffee, she was a voice for change, a reminder that one person's courage could inspire a movement. As she sipped her tea, Opal reflected on the journey she had taken. The path had been fraught with challenges, but each obstacle had shaped her into the person she was today. The humiliation she had faced had become a stepping stone, guiding her toward a greater purpose. She realized that her worth was not defined by the opinions of others but by her actions and the impact she could make. Her friends shared their own stories of resilience, and together, they celebrated their victories, both big and small. Opal felt a sense of belonging, a connection that transcended the superficial barriers that once divided them. In that moment, she understood that true strength lay in unity, in lifting each other up and fighting for a more inclusive world. As the sun began to set, casting a golden hue over the park, Opal looked around at her friends, their laughter echoing in the air. She no longer felt the sting of judgment or the weight of shame. Instead, she was filled with a sense of hope and determination. They were all in this together, and together, they would continue to challenge the status quo. Opal knew that her journey was far from over, but she was ready to face whatever came next. With her heart full, she raised her cup of tea in a toast to resilience, to friendship, and to the power of speaking out. In that moment, she felt a profound sense of peace, knowing that she had not just reclaimed her dignity but had also sparked a movement that would resonate for years to come. She smiled, embracing the strength that had always been within her, a strength that would guide her on this path of advocacy and change.